Hello and welcome to the Ready State OpenStack install via PackStack component of the Getting to Know Crowbar 2.1 install videos. I'm your host Rob Hirschfeld, and today we're going to jump down directly into the OpenStack piece. We're assuming that you've already walked through these other steps, and we suggest you go back through the videos. If you haven't, we're going to take you through some of the steps, hopefully, and explain things as we go. The Crowbar capability in the Ready State wizard combines a whole bunch of other operational steps into a single piece. Basically, we're going to build a network, attach it to the second 1 gig interface on our system, and give it a network range. You'll see how all this plays out. I've got 3 servers in here, and we're going to install Cent 7 on them. So these are the wizard. It's going to set this system up. It's all virtualized. And at this point, we've created a subset of our overall environment for the purpose of installing OpenStack. And I can come in and make changes like the OS and things like that. For this demo, we've only been testing PackStack against Cenos. So if I want to add PackStack into my environment, I choose to add that role into this deployment. Once again, we'll talk about these terms in earlier videos. And then so I want to add OpenStack. I'm going to choose my first node. I want to make sure it's my 81 address just to make things easy. Those addresses haven't been allocated yet, but have been assigned by Crowbar out of that host network pool. So in this case, I added the PackStack milestone, the OpenStack milestone. That milestone means that it's going to be decomposed into a base setup and a node setup. And in the base setup, I can choose what release I want to install. So by default, we'll go to Juno. You could also go back and do Icehouse. Going back into the pilot, so now I've done that. I've chosen my base. I've identified that this is a PackStack node, which does all of the ready state configuration, the keys, making sure that the environment is prepped to run PackStack. In this demo, we don't run PackStack. The code here is provided by Racken, which is the company founded by the Open Crowbar founders, and we're following basically these steps on how to do the install. Once again, we've expected you to have already walked through the whole OpenStack install, and we're really it's very simple to do this. We're just going to install PackStack. Crowbar is doing all the lifting of building the environment, attaching the networks, building the NICs, and things like that. So at this point, I've said I want these 3 nodes to be PackStack nodes. One of them has been identified as the base node, and that's where we'll be launching the PackStack install from. And from that point, I've done all of my proposals, and I need to commit my deployment. From there, Crowbar is going to do some heavy lifting. It's going to reboot the machines it's discovered, install Cent 7 on it, lay down the PackStack RPMs, packages, and all the componentry that's needed, make sure that the keys are distributed. And it's going to take a little while. So we're going to literally go back through a reboot environment and the system, and you will see all of these nodes reboot, change, and things like that. We'll pick back up after that step is completed and all our check marks are green. Okay, so now we are set. Our environment has progressed to the point where all of the nodes are ready. The PackStack pieces have been installed and good. And at this point, we're ready to follow these directions. So Racken PackStack in GitHub. From here, it's going to take you through these same basics. There is a way to download the install script. So this is really going to just bring in the pieces. So you should have followed these steps in installing PackStack. I've already passed this point. This is I'll re-emphasize this. This extra step needs to be done as part of the Open Crowbar install, so that it's read in during the deployment phase. From there, this is me bringing up VMs, and this is the admin node. This is in. Okay, good. So from this admin node, it's time to run the PackStack install. So to recap, ready stated 3 machines with PackStack, and then added the PackStack pieces, following these directions in the rack and PackStack repo. And then from here, what I need to do is SSH into into that PackStack master node. So in that case, I need to be the Crowbar user in my environment. So instead of root, I'm now Crowbar. I'm still on my Crowbar admin node, so that first machine. And from here, I'm going to SSH into my first machine, 192.168.124.81. I could use the DNS names to their MAC addresses, so they're actually a little bit harder for me to remember. It's important to understand one of the things Crowbar does is distribute keys to the system, so you can SSH and access them, and they can SSH into each other, which is how PackStack manages the Puppet install. So once I am on the node here, I'm following these steps. I need to be the PackStack user. So PackStack installs as the PackStack user. Crowbar preps that environment, creates that user for us to do that. And then I need to actually run the PackStack install. So let me grab this script. This is convenient here because we're actually using the exact same IP addresses. So inside this documentation, if you use the Crowbar defaults, it's going to set up a host network with starting at .81, then adding .82 and .83. So we did exactly that. One thing to note is for speed and performance reasons, we don't include the first ISO that OpenStack needs, the first VM image. So you would have to upload that post the install in this case. And I'm going to kick that off, and it'll start doing the PackStack install. That's going to drag in a whole bunch of things from the internet, so it takes a bit of time to do this install. It's very important to understand what we've done here is not create a Crowbar installer. We're using PackStack as the install. All we've done is set up an environment that makes it really easy and repeatable to do PackStack installs. Then optimizing, customizing, changing, tweaking, setting up software-defined networking, all of those actions are OpenStack install actions and would be done subsequently. Our goal has been to make it so that when you do those steps, you can learn from them, improve, clean your whole environment, repeat. And that repetition is what brings you to good operations practice. And then we can layer dev scripting, DevOps scripting on top of this type of install. I'm going to pause and let this go because it takes a while, and then I'll show you how to log into OpenStack. So we're not quite complete yet. It's been a couple of minutes. We've done a whole bunch of work, and the system slows down while it's doing some tests. You can watch those go. It's just normal for this to happen. And it's also normal for some of the finishing steps to fail, but the system itself to have come up sufficiently. And I'll show you what that looks like as we complete the script. So we've had a chance for the system to run. Like I expected, we had an error down in one of the Horizon Puppet pieces. In some cases, the work has already been done and there's extra configuration that's being added. Once again, our goal here is not to walk you through the whole OpenStack install using PackStack. That's be a future topic, or one best done in the OpenStack community. Our goal here is to give you a ready state so that you can do this work and then apply, rinse, repeat the work again. At this point, it's important to be able to now log into the system. We're going to walk you through that. To do that, I have to stop being the PackStack user. And then what I need to do is get the password that I need from the password file. So you'll notice in these closing comments that we have this file has been installed with the configuration information. So this is my basically my .rc file with the key information that you would use to log into the OpenStack APIs and run the API instructions. And we just took all the defaults. Everything's very basic. You can see the URLs right here for the API. I need this password, so let me copy the password, and then I'll open up my admin server. One of the things that's important is when you're doing this work, especially if you're using VMs, that you make sure you create the routes. between these different networks. In this case, our instructions include how to attach this network route. So I have my admin system. I have to paste in the new password, and then I can log into OpenStack. So as part of this PackStack install, we were able to get the basic install up and running. And then you can navigate the UI. Remember, I haven't uploaded an image yet, so the first thing you're going to want to do is play with that. But you also need to set up networks and do all the things that you would normally do to set up an OpenStack installer. We're happy and excited to work with people in the community who want to help continue the documentation of this process. It's just the PackStack installer. It's nothing particularly esoteric. And then it would be possible to extend the Crowbar pieces just so slightly to run that last one-line command as part of the overall deployment and have that be a configuration. We chose to stop there and see if there's community interest in moving that forward and participating. At this time, the Rack and PackStack repos are open. They're available. They are not licensed in an Apache license. Racken has retained the right to the little bit of code that's in this. But if there's community interest, we are very open to making this code extendable and shareable in broad ways. The reason we have not, and it's worth mentioning, is because Racken is not an OpenStack installer company. We are really looking for partners or customers or people who want to take this work on from the ready state above and promote that and do that themselves. And we felt that by keeping the licenses as they were, it would enable people to build their own OpenStack products if they wanted on top without having a Crowbar competitor. So maybe more business information than you were hoping in the demo, but worth explaining very clearly up front. I hope this has been helpful, that you can sort of follow through this progression. Of course, you need to go all the way down through these other 3 steps in order to do this work. This is just sort of the tail end. And then if you want, from the same environment, you can reset and then explore some of the other integrations that we've done with Salt, Chef, or physical provisioning. Thank you very much. So after we've looked at the networks and bus interfaces on the deployments, we've shown you the deployment side. This is a new install, by the way. I slipped one in between while I paused after networking. You can take a look at all the roles. It's important when you look at roles to understand that each role is implemented by a different jig. Jig is our abstraction interface. So when each role is executed, it can be done by a different implementation mechanism. In some cases, that's a script. So that's actually a bash shell action. No-op does nothing. We use that for checkpoints and milestones. Ends up being a very important part of the orchestration system, so that you can have other roles that depend on a milestone and then basically create a series of gates for your deployment and then extend the orchestration around those gate points. Ends up being a critical architectural design component. We didn't realize how important it would be until after we'd put it in. Test jigs are used for our offline tests, so we can test without having to deploy physical infrastructure. Chef Solo is an older jig. We used to use it before we switched to using Chef Server, so it basically runs without the Chef Server being required. It is functionally equivalent to the Chef jig, except that you can't use encrypted data bags with it. Puppet standalone, very similar concept. If you had Puppet modules that you wanted to execute. Role provided jig is a new concept that we're using for some of the burn-in and system validation. And then a lot of the core work we have is Chef, because that's historically what we've used for Crowbar. So we were able to reuse significant amounts of code from Crowbar 1 by reusing the Chef jig. And it's important to note that the Chef client is installed by the script jig, just like SaltStack or Puppet. That's how you bootstrap through the system. System overview, the annealer. When the system's operating, it's going to show you what work is in different states. It's a convenient way to track what's happening with the system. The system overview here is designed to help sort of see the system at the high level. It's really useful when there are a lot of nodes and what it does is it'll show you what type of work is going on within the system in a functional sort of way. So you can see operating systems being deployed, nodes being brought up. I call this the CIO view. It's useful to sort of see how busy your infrastructure is. And then under utilities, we have a series of things. Bootstrapping is used if you don't provide the defaults. You can use the bootstrapping screen to populate all the critical data if you weren't using our production.sh script. Exported items is used to retrieve log files. Installed jigs will show you all the different jigs that are in operation. You can see there's quite a number of them for roles. The test one's not activated. If you ran in development mode, a lot of these jigs wouldn't be installed. Bar clamps are a legacy concept from Crowbar 1. Really, they're groupings of roles. Then those are then bundled into workloads. It used to be that you had to have a GitHub repo for every bar clamp. We did away with that, and so something like OpenStack, which in Crowbar 1 would have 10 or 15 different bar clamp and GitHub repos. Those would still be bar clamps, but they would be managed as a single workload. And then we have some user management. So there is password and user identities with admin and non-admin credentials. And if you're going to do API work, these have to be set as API enabled. So that's what Machine Install and Crowbar both operate as API enabled users. And there's also a user setting, so your user can actually decide if it wants to show additional information or hide additional information and change refresh rates. Sort of primitive. And then the help is just a rendering of the GitHub markdown documents, which you could equally get to if you were going into the GitHub. I mean, you actually should be able to jump, edit the page on GitHub, takes you right to the GitHub page. And this has been really important for us because it allows people to maintain and retrieve the latest documentation even if their install isn't. We've been talking about removing that whole component and just using online documentation. more detailed than you probably wanted, but that's a complete tour of the UI so that you can see how things operate and hopefully get a better sense. The next video we're going to go through goes down into booting nodes, and actually will walk you through the steps of doing that and using the ready state wizard for provisioning step. I'll talk to you then.